Today we're talking about Sadiq Khan's Night Czar. She's previously appeared on Plank of the Week a few times. She makes £132,000 a year. She's had something like a sort of 81% pay rise since she started. But she's been on sick leave. Her name is Amy Lamé. She's been on sick leave for the past 6 weeks. Hasn't been able to work for Sadiq Khan, hasn't been able to work at the London Assembly, hasn't been able to do anything as the Night Czar. But what she has been able to do is to continue to present her BBC radio shows, right? Which is incredible. She began her show by saying, well, hello, girls and boys and everyone in between. This was on 6 Music last Sunday. It is Sunday morning and there is nothing else to do but chill out and enjoy the tunes. Well, it seems a bit of a luxury, does it not, to have somebody on that kind of salary who's been off sick for 6 weeks. Susan Hall, who of course ran against Sadiq Khan to run the mayor's office, said London's nightlife is desperate for someone who can really stand up for the sector and give their full devotion to supporting the industry and what it needs to succeed. Under Sadiq Khan and his £132,000 a year Night Czar, we have seen a number of London pubs, clubs and venues closing down at a faster rate than anywhere else in the country. It's certainly not hard to see why. Let's have a word now with Emma Best, Deputy Leader of City Hall Tories and Leader of the Conservatives. Emma, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Thanks very much for talking to us. This is an extraordinary situation, isn't it? Amy Lamé, which is spelt lame with an accent, apparently doesn't feel like she's well enough to work at City Hall, but she's OK to do radio shows.
Yeah, well, Mike, I have to start saying this, again, draws attention to the ridiculous fact that Amy Lamé is a civil servant, not a political appointment. So we're actually quite restricted on what we're allowed to say, even though she's broken the civil servant code many times to support the mayor and Labour. But what I would say is, obviously, a civil servant making just shy of what the Prime Minister's making, overseeing one of the biggest declines we're seeing in London, which is the nighttime industry and economy. Yeah. How would it be acceptable to see somebody moonlighting, working every week in another public sphere, putting on Instagram that they're out hiking, doing their big jobs in their garden, and not question that? The night industry is calling out for leadership right now, and quite clearly that any leadership is missing. Well,
one of the things that people tell me, and because I go to bed quite early these days, I'm not out that late anymore as I used to be, but people tell me that now, sort of after 10 o'clock, an awful lot of places shut down. A lot of people can't afford to go out at night now. Many people don't go out too late at night because they don't feel it's safe enough in London. So, I mean, there's quite a lot of work that could be being done about rejuvenating the nighttime economy, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Licensing and regulation in London's a joke, and it's mainly Labour councils that are the big offenders. In Hackney, they've put a blanket ban on the nighttime economy, basically, and closing hours. You saw Greggs in Westminster that had to basically go to court to see if they could sell sausage rolls after 10 p.m. It's a crazy situation, and also let alone the number of iconic nighttime clubs like we've seen Heaven, for example, that have been closing down. And these are all come down onto the licensing regulation, where the Night Czar you'd think would be best placed to advocate for those industries. But it's not just licensing and planning. She's got a role to play in looking for the tax reductions that obviously the hospitality sector wants to see. She should be the cheerleader, championing that. There's also, of course, the safety. People feel less safe in London now than ever. She should be championing that and trying to work with the Met. Venues say they don't feel like they have the police presence that they once did. They want that reassurance and support from the Night Czar, and of course the transport infrastructure as well, and making sure that we have an actual 24-hour network that can get not only people out to have a good time, but get these key workers out to work.
Exactly right. And I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that she was hired a few years ago on a salary of about 81,000, and it's now suddenly jumped up to 132,000, which is a very, very big increase. I mean, it's a massive increase, more than 50%. And you have to wonder why she's getting paid quite as much money. Why does a Night Czar, forget about the fact that she's not been there for 6 weeks, why does she need to be paid 132,000 a year?
Yeah, well, it jumped from the first point to 118 and now 132, like I say, just shy of the Prime Minister. Look over to Manchester, where their nightlife's actually climbing really and accelerating at a high rate. Their Night Czar, Sacha Lord, does it for free.
Right. Yeah, we know Sasha. He comes on this show quite a lot, and he comes on this station quite a lot, and he's very active, and he's very good at promoting Manchester, which is one of the things that you never see this woman, Amy Lamé, doing. I mean, we asked the Greater London Authority why she's been off for 6 weeks and what the cause is, and they said, as is the case with all GLA employees, Greater London Authority employees, we don't discuss the individual circumstances of members of staff. But you said you can't talk about certain things because she's a civil servant. I mean, what do you imagine, or what can you do to try and get her back to work?
Yeah, so and in the round, I would just say that if somebody is not turning up at one job whilst doing a very public other job, and they are a public figure, I think that needs an explanation, and that is something that we would ask in any case of a civil servant that's taking sick leave from the GLA whilst, presenting a show or doing, I don't know, Strictly Come Dancing, something in the public eye. Those are legitimate questions. So we're trying to ascertain that, obviously, privately. But, of course, I think Londoners and people around the country as well will be baffled by this and wanting that explanation as well. Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, what's the rule? How many months can you take off? I mean, in most jobs, there's only a certain number of months you can take off without a proper explanation. And if you then come up with a proper explanation, at some point or other, you get put on to sort of, half your wages. But I don't know what the situation is at GLA.
Well, this is the strange place of it being... not a political appointment of the mayor, but a staff member. And obviously it would depend on the reasons that she has given as to what HR may decide or may not decide. But, obviously when you've got a close link to the mayor, it's hard to believe that there isn't some sort of shield there as well. But I think it would be hard to comment, obviously, because we don't know the reason that she's given. But I'm still struggling to find a reason why you would be able to have an out of office on saying you've got the time that you're going to be back, which she did, and then it emerges you're sick. I mean, that to me, that would suggest perhaps you've gone for surgery. But if you're doing your garden, hiking up mountains and presenting a radio show, you probably haven't undergone surgery and wouldn't have been able to tell,
well, you can't very well be not well enough to do one job, but well enough to do another one. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Who's she actually ultimately answerable to then?
So she's answerable to the chief of staff, the chief officer of the GLA, and the mayoral team, David Bellamy, who's the chief of staff for the mayor, and we would be hoping that they would be giving us an explanation as to why, for any of their staff members, behaviour like this would be acceptable. But I think the main key issue to get back to, Mike, is the nighttime industry is struggling. I held a round table with nighttime leaders. The GLA also held a round table. Amy Lamé was off sick and not able to come to either of those. But one of the biggest things that the industry leaders are calling out is just leadership, just somebody to talk to, just someone to promote them, just someone to come and turn up for a photo and say, I'm here, and these are the basic parts of leadership in the role. It's not asking for mountains to be moved. It's just asking someone to be there. Yeah, and that's what a nighttime industry that is falling at a faster rate than any region in the country is calling out for. And we're the capital. We should be the hub of, the country's nightlife. Absolutely right. Emma, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. That's Emma Best, Deputy Leader of City Hall Tories. As I say, a spokesperson for the Greater London Authority said, as is the case with all GLA employees, we don't discuss the individual circumstances of members of staff.